Welcome to Succeed with Shanice, a podcast about keeping it real and helping you thrive in every aspect of your professional journey. I am Shanice the CEO, sharing my unique perspective as a Black woman in HR and business ownership, and spotlighting conversations where BIPOC experiences in the workplace are shared, valued, and celebrated. Hey Succeeders, welcome back to Succeed with Shanice, the podcast where we speak the truth about leadership, identity, and showing up fully in our power. I am your host, Shanice the CEO, and today's episode is all about something we don't talk about enough: the courage it takes to ask for help, and why doing so is not just okay, but essential to thriving in leadership. For us as women of color in positions of power, this message really does matter. So let's dive right in. First, let's ground this conversation in reality. Leaders aren't meant to carry everything on their own. Leadership should not be a high wire act without a safety net. These forms of support are not nice to haves, but they are foundational in our leadership success. So employers have a responsibility to support your leadership through many different ways. One being professional development. Without continued learning and upskilling, leaders tend to get stuck. So it is your employer who should be investing in your growth, in your development, just as much as you give any output or work in your leadership. Investing in you helps to really drive their overall bottom line. Employers are also responsible for providing the resources and tools for you to be successful. Being tasked with driving results without the right infrastructure is truly a setup. So tools, systems, and capacity really do matter. And it's up to your employer to ensure all of that and help you in driving whatever results you're seeking in your leadership role. Another way of support is safety and security. This includes physical safety, psychological safety, and the trust that you're not being surveillanced, second-guessed, or set up to fail. It is really up to the employer to give you an environment where you feel and are safe and secure in your role. Another support system, and this is one that comes up rather often, is those times where we might need some accommodation. Whether you're managing anxiety, a chronic illness, or just need work flexibility, if it impacts your ability to lead, your employer is legally and ethically bound to consider reasonable accommodations for you. So asking for that and expecting that is a must. Lastly, special accommodations. Whether you're managing anxiety, chronic illness, or just need work flexibility, if it impacts your ability to lead, your employer is legally and ethically bound to consider reasonable accommodations for you. So again, leadership should not be this high wire act, right? Like, we should be able to have the necessary accommodations and tools and support to be able to drive all of our leadership goals and produce the way that we naturally can. So by ensuring that these forms of support are in place, your employer is really just helping them with their bottom line. So being able to ask for these things is something that I want to dive into next. So let's talk about what's often unspoken. Many of us don't ask for help, especially women of color. Not because we don't need it, but because we've been taught directly or indirectly that needing help is a weakness. So I collected some common reasons as to why we women leaders of color may not ask for help. Because I believe if we call it out and name it, we'll be able to tackle it and overcome it. One common reason is it feels like a sign of inadequacy to ask for help. We internalize that asking for help means we aren't capable or ready for the role that we're taking on. Another reason is resource scarcity mindset. And I'm sure we're all familiar with this. But many of us have learned how to make it work with the very little that we have. So we keep doing that. And even when we're drowning in all of the things, we still refrain from asking for more or asking for additional resources. And we just operate in that mindset of scarcity of, well, we'll just make it work with what we have. And we don't have to, but I won't get ahead of myself. Next, another common area is lack of trust in some mentorship opportunities or identifying mentorship where there is that trust and understanding. When you don't see leaders who look like you, asking for help and still thriving as you want to, it's hard to then model that behavior. We, especially women of color, tend to be in environments where we don't necessarily see folks that look like us in those roles that either we're aspiring to be in or that we're already in trying to navigate. And in doing so, we tend to lack the connection to potential mentorship opportunities where that individual understands exactly where we're coming from. So not being able to see leaders who look like us kind of hinders us from being able to have the option to ask for help or to connect with that individual who can provide that type of support in a trusted environment. Another common area is fear of repercussions. And not only have I experienced this, but I have also heard it multiple times, again, directly or indirectly, where there's this voice that says, if I admit I'm struggling, will they think I can't handle it? Or will I lose my job if I say that I can't do something or I don't have the necessary abilities and tools on hand to be able to accomplish that thing? This is a natural fear, but one that comes up all too often that, again, creates this barrier from us being able to seek out the help that we need. And then lastly, and most importantly, but I hope it does not come up as often in all of your workspaces, is those environments that are toxic or just unsupportive altogether. Microaggressions and over surveillance is real and can make a simple act of advocating for ourselves feel like an act of rebellion, right? So if we're in a space where we're constantly being told, suck it up or deal with it, or you don't need all of that, you have everything that you need, it causes us to adopt those beliefs, and anything outside of that where it's, well, no, I actually do need more resources. I do need professional development. I do need additional support, additional staff. I do need to delegate this thing. It's as if we're going against the narrative or against the cultural messaging that no, we're good. You don't need all of that. And that space is very heavy. That space causes us to be very distant from being able to seek the help that we need in our respective leadership areas. I want to take this moment to be very, very honest, but also very, very personal, because I do believe that this topic is honest, but also is one that can be personal. in sharing a bit of a vulnerability and sharing my story of how it showed up for me in not being able to know when, how, if I should ask for help. When I was a department director managing multiple functions and people and projects, I also lived with this high functioning anxiety. I continuously was praised for how much I could juggle, but no one saw the toll it was taking on me physically, mentally, emotionally. And I prided myself on not asking for help because I, too, had internalized the fear of showing vulnerability or being seen as less capable. Truthfully, I didn't even know how to ask. I thought I had to prove I could do it all to be taken seriously, and it nearly broke me. I was so exhausted. And even worse, by not getting the help I needed and holding off on delegating out of fear that I'd lose my value, I hurt my connection with my team. I didn't have the time or emotional capacity to nurture the trust and the harmony we had worked so hard to build within each other. So I want to be clear in that the silence we keep to protect our position often costs us our very peace. And it harms the relationships we're trying to sustain both at work and at home. So when we don't ask for help, the costs are real. Burnout becomes a lifestyle, and it's not sustainable. Let me say that again. It is not sustainable to be burnt out all the time. We contribute to perpetuating a culture where asking for help isn't normalized, which means our team members suffer too. It leads to lackluster leadership because when we're overwhelmed, we can't coach, we can't inspire, or we can't strategize at our best, at our 100% self. And perhaps the most damaging, we send the message that this is what it takes to be successful. That you have to overfunction to belong. That's not the legacy we are building here. And I truly hope we can start looking at together and talking about what it can look like to ask for help as a leader. So you're probably wondering, Shanice, how do I do that? How do I ask for help with clarity and confidence? Well, I'm glad you asked, because as I normally do in this podcast, I have 3 areas that you can actually implement now in being able to advocate for yourself, ask for help, and make sure that you are clearly and confidently presenting your need as a leader for your own success. So 1, strategic advocacy. Strategic advocacy. This means just mapping your needs. Be clear about what's missing and how it impacts your work and the broader goals of the organization. Tie your request to business outcomes, whether that be productivity, retention, well-being. Don't make it a list of complaints. Organize it and structure it as the solution for you, for your team, and overall for your organization. 2, encourage it in others. You want to be the example. If you lead a team, create a culture where asking for help isn't penalized, but it's valued. And when someone comes to you, respond with action and not judgment. What does this look like? If someone comes and says, hey, thank you for giving me that special project, but there's a portion of it where I think I need some additional support, Can I hop in on this quick webinar that costs X amount of dollars for 2 hours just to increase my skill set? Don't only look at the cost or the expense of that, but look at the driving value and increase in being able to invest, or the opportunity to be able to invest in your teammate, in your employee. And then acknowledge that. Share with them, thank you for bringing this to my attention and trusting me with me being able to help you and support you in this way. And absolutely, go take the webinar. And if you can bring any of that information back to the rest of the team, that would be even better, so we can all have a cross understanding of whatever the content is. So coming from a place of support, a place of value, a place of gratitude is really encouraging and especially supportive in creating an environment or a culture that, again, doesn't penalize someone for asking help, that adds value to it and has that multiply across the rest of the team. Lastly, formalize your request. It's one thing to be able to ask for professional development support, whether that means a degree or a conference or a webinar. And it's another thing when it's tied to something that has to do with your health and safety. And these needs may require documentation. So it's not fair or comfortable. Maybe I shouldn't use the word fair, but it's not comfortable. And yes, it can feel invasive to have this type of conversation for these type of accommodations. But when possible, be thoughtful about how you present these needs and make sure to secure yourself with professional backing if required, whether that be documentation from a specialist or a doctor, or even just providing proof if you track your performance in whatever this health or safety need is, you can reflect how that's impeding on that over a significant period of time. Documentation doesn't necessarily mean defeat, and neither is being vulnerable, okay? It can be a form of you just setting boundaries around how you deliver your leadership, how you can show up in your leadership, and how you can be able to feel fully supported within your leadership role. Because again, we're not building a legacy where folks don't ask for help or feel like asking for help is being rebellious. But we are building a legacy where there is space for everyone to be supported in the unique ways in which they need that. So to summarize everything that we discussed, we talked about some of the areas where we are, as employers, obligated to support leadership. So again, think about or assess you and your leadership role and the things that you need, and identify how or what are those areas that my employer is either legally or ethically obligated to support me. Then we identified reasons why we as women leaders may not ask for help, whether it's, again, us being used to working with less, or lack of trust within the people around us, our leadership, our environments, or just fear of repercussions, because we don't want to lose our value or lose our job. With that, we identified if we didn't ask for help, there are risks to that, right? Whether it's burnout or us not being able to balance our needs with our team's needs, or just having lackluster leadership, not being able to lead from a place of wholeness and capacity. And then lastly, we identified 3 key ways in which we can be very strategic, bold, and thoughtful in how we can begin asking for help. And that's either through strategic advocacy, encouraging it with others, so role modeling that act, and then when necessary, formalizing it into an official request for accommodations. Because here's the truth, and I'll end here. Asking for help isn't a detour from leadership. It is leadership. It models strength, it models sustainability, and it models strategy. So the next time your plate is too full, your anxiety is too loud, or the support isn't quite there, ask yourself, what do I need to lead well? And then verbally ask for whatever that need is. And you can use, again, one of the 3 ways that I shared in this episode, because success isn't built on silence. No one's just going to by osmosis know what you're going through. It would be great if they did, but also maybe a little bit scary. But success was never and has never been built on silence. It has, though, been built on support. So I love to hear from you. What's one area where you know you need support but haven't asked yet? Drop your thoughts either in the comments on Spotify, or if you're listening through my website, you can go ahead and use the feedback form, and let's talk about it. Let's support each other, and let's build a culture where help isn't a weakness, it's wisdom. So until next time, I hope you all keep leading and keep succeeding with the support that you deserve.